In the world of investment banking, where I spend 60 to 70 hours a week as a little veep, I've always prided myself on maintaining a strong marriage despite the demanding schedule. My wife, Emily, and I generally have what most would consider an enviable relationship. At least we did until recently. Last night brought a revelation that shook my understanding of our marriage. Emily disclosed she's been on an intimate strike for nearly a month, all stemming from comments I made following our last date night. The irony isn't lost on me. These date nights are something I meticulously plan each month, a tradition I started to ensure our connection stays strong despite my grueling work schedule. I handle everything. Securing reservations at top restaurants like Le Bernardin or Daniel, arranging our trusted babysitter for our 3 children, preparing their dinner, and managing all the logistics. Emily just needs to show up and enjoy herself. Usually, we'll cap off dinner with drinks, sometimes meeting friends, other times keeping it intimate with just us two. This particular evening began wonderfully at Le Bernardin. The ambience was perfect, the food exquisite, and Emily looked absolutely stunning in her favorite black dress, the one that still makes my heart skip a beat, even after years of marriage. Post-dinner, I suggested we visit this intimate wine bar I'd discovered nearby, thinking it would be the perfect spot to wind down. However, Emily had been texting with Kate, wife of our close friend James, and asked if we could join them for drinks instead. Being the accommodating husband, and genuinely wanting to make Emily happy, I agreed without hesitation. We headed to their suggested venue, but timing worked against us. Their dinner ran later than ours, and by the time they finished, Kate, exhausted from her early hospital shifts as a pediatrician, decided to head home. James ended up joining us alone after dropping her off. The night took its first real turn around 11:45, when we needed to relieve our babysitter. Emily, clearly enjoying the evening's energy, didn't want it to end, and invited James back to our place for another drink. I agreed, but mentioned hoping to be in bed by 1 o'clock, given my responsibility for the morning routine with our kids. Those early morning hours are sacred in our household, a time when I take full charge so Emily can catch up on sleep. She promised we'd wrap up by then. At home, what followed still frustrates me when I think about it. James came over, and we opened a bottle of Camus Cabernet. Not our usual weeknight wine, but one we save for special occasions. The music was playing, conversations flowing, and admittedly, we were all having a great time. But when 1 o'clock arrived and James made moves to leave, Emily insisted he stay, caught up in what she called the vibe. I held out another 10 minutes before exhaustion won out. Emily assured me she'd be up shortly. I went through my evening routine, brushing teeth, checking on the kids, setting out my clothes for the next day's early meeting. Time ticked by, and I didn't hear her footsteps on the stairs. Finally, at 3 o'clock, I was jolted awake by Emily stumbling into our bedroom, clearly intoxicated and making enough noise to wake the neighbors. Anyone who knows me understands that once I'm awake, falling back asleep is a monumental challenge. This time was no exception. I lay there until 5 o'clock, acutely aware that our kids would be up at 6:30, ready to start their day with their usual boundless energy. The morning after, in my sleepless state, I made what I now recognize as my first significant mistake. I sent Emily a text while she slept, expressing how her actions hurt me and how it felt like I'd planned this special evening only for her to spend the latter part of it with someone else. I want to be clear. I had absolutely no concerns about impropriety. James and Emily's friendship has always been something I trusted completely. When Emily came downstairs the next morning, she was apologetic. However, I compounded my earlier mistake by expressing how her actions made me reluctant to continue planning these elaborate date nights. I pointed out her broken promise about bedtime and the disruption to my sleep, something that had happened before on date nights. Then came what Emily would later call the breaking point. I mentioned this was the fourth consecutive date night that ended without intimacy, adding that in my mind, a successful date night should culminate in that connection. The hurt in her eyes was immediate and deep. She felt reduced to physical intimacy, insisting that date nights should be about enjoying each other's company without expectations. While I understand her perspective about companionship being paramount, it's hard not to feel disappointed after planning a romantic evening, especially given the pattern and her choice to spend the late hours with someone else instead of me. Context and clarifications. Since this situation has garnered attention, let me address some common questions. Why involve friends on date night? Simply because Emily asked, and I've always prioritized her happiness. Regarding our intimate life, we typically connect 2 to 3 times a week, quite healthy for parents of 3 young children, though the distribution can be uneven. Some weeks it's as frequent as 5 times, others just once. I pride myself on being an attentive partner, always ensuring Emily's satisfaction, unless she specifically requests otherwise. The month-long intimate strike caught me off guard partly because of a perfect storm of circumstances. I intentionally took a week off from initiating to show I valued our relationship beyond physical connection. Then I caught a severe case of COVID, followed by Emily's monthly cycle, and a family trip where privacy was limited with small children. Even without an intentional strike, opportunities were scarce. We did have a couple of encounters during this period, which Emily initiated during what she called moments of weakness. The history of our relationship. Our marriage has weathered various seasons of intimacy drought before, during pregnancies, after major surgeries, and during Emily's battles with depression. These periods, while challenging, never shook my commitment to her. Our relationship has always been built on so much more than physical connection. Previous date nights. Let me address what happened on those other 3 date nights, as context matters here. During one, we met a large group of friends at an upscale bar after dinner. When someone needed to relieve the babysitter, I volunteered, encouraging Emily to enjoy herself with our friends, many of whom have full-time nannies or family support that allows for late nights. She stayed out until past 3 o'clock and was barely coherent when she returned. I helped her to bed, ensuring she was safe and comfortable. Another evening ended early due to an argument at dinner, something trivial about summer vacation plans that somehow escalated. The third night, Emily was simply exhausted by the time we got home, which I completely understood, given her full days with our energetic children. I never pushed the issue or complained. Looking back, there wasn't really a pattern of specific behavior, just a series of circumstances that prevented our ideal evening from unfolding. Understanding Emily. To truly understand our dynamic, you need to know more about Emily. She's naturally a night owl. Her ideal schedule would be staying up until midnight or 1 o'clock and sleeping until 9 o'clock. On weekends, especially when she's enjoying herself, she can easily stay up until 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. This has been a point of contention throughout our relationship. Once she gets into a social groove, she's reluctant to stop, which she admits isn't ideal. I've offered to match her late-night schedule if she'd take the morning shift with the kids, but she's always declined, saying it wouldn't provide enough rest. Our division of labor. My role at the investment bank provides us with significant financial security, but it comes with long hours. Emily chose to be a stay-at-home mom after leaving her successful career as a pastry chef at a Michelin-starred restaurant. When I'm at work, she manages our children and household with incredible skill. During my off hours, I handle about 60% of household responsibilities, including the dreaded morning shift that we both agree is the most challenging. Emily has often expressed appreciation for my involvement, noting that I contribute more than any of our male friends. Emily, as a mother. One thing that's never been in question is Emily's excellence as a mother. She transforms our children's daily lives into adventures filled with wonder and excitement. Other parents frequently comment on how she makes every playdate special, every ordinary day extraordinary. She's the favorite mom among all our kids' friends, known for her creativity and genuine care for each child. Her dedication to motherhood is absolute, which might explain why she sometimes parties later than ideal, seeking that release from the constant demands of caring for 3 young children. The depth of our connection. Beyond the challenges, our relationship flourishes in countless ways. Every morning, I prepare Emily's coffee exactly as she likes it, leaving little notes beside her mug, a tradition we've maintained for years. She provides tech support to my mother, a task I handled for years, and understand the patience it requires. Weekly flower deliveries and surprise gifts from me are met with her less frequent but incredibly thoughtful presence. Remove the current tension about intimacy, and our relationship has been thriving. The communication breakdown. About 9 months ago, we had a significant argument about intimacy during vacations. I expressed frustration about our lack of connection during trips, not fully appreciating her valid concerns about thin walls and nearby children or friends in shared vacation homes. This led to a month-long pause in our physical relationship. Emily felt I was ungrateful for our otherwise healthy, intimate life and needed to reset expectations about when and where intimacy should occur. The discovery, April 26, 2024. The human capacity for self-deception is remarkable. A month after defending Emily and James against Reddit's collective suspicion, reality crashed into my carefully constructed world of trust. While unpacking our Tesla after a family grocery run, I found Emily's phone in the passenger seat. As I picked it up, a text from James flashed across the screen that stopped my heart. He wanted to kiss her again and suggested she make up an excuse about needing a night out to meet him at a bar. I know what I did next crosses privacy boundaries, but in that moment, the weight of potential truth overshadowed ethical considerations. We've always known each other's passcodes, a practice of transparency we'd maintained throughout our marriage. What I found in her deleted messages folder devastated me. They had been meeting during my long days at the office, and James had been sending increasingly suggestive messages. The confrontation. My hands were shaking when I confronted Emily in our kitchen, the granite countertop cold against my palms as I steadied myself. She characterized it as an emotional affair, a term that felt both inadequate and overwhelming. According to her, she recognized James had feelings for her and admitted to enjoying the attention. Her explanation wove together threads of her ongoing depression, my 60-hour work weeks at the bank, and her need for emotional connection. She maintained her love for me, insisting the situation never progressed beyond words, with one exception, a single kiss. Emily emphasized that all suggestive texts came from James, not her. She showed me their message history, pointing out how she would deflect or redirect his advances. But the fact that she continued engaging with him at all felt like 1,000 paper cuts to my trust. The immediate aftermath. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of sleepless nights and intense conversations. I moved through my workdays on autopilot, thankful for my office's private bathroom where I could collect myself when emotions overwhelmed me. Emily spent these days in visible agony, alternating between profound apologies and attempts to explain her actions. I found myself studying her face during these conversations. This woman I'd trusted implicitly, who masterfully balanced being a devoted mother to our children with being my best friend and partner. The same face that lit up our home with laughter now carried the weight of betrayal. Yet something in me recognized truth in her remorse. Her eyes held that same authenticity I'd fallen in love with years ago. April 30th, 2024. The full story. After several days of processing, Emily and I had a true heart-to-heart. The timeline she shared painted a more nuanced picture than my worst fears had conjured. Her account aligned perfectly with what James revealed when I confronted him separately, before they could coordinate stories. More importantly, it matched what Emily's sister, who has always been more loyal to me than to her own sister, independently confirmed. The genesis of this situation traced back 6 months, when James' marriage began unraveling. He started confiding in Emily, utilizing her natural talent for emotional support, a gift she regularly shares with friends, though typically with women. Their conversations began as weekly check-ins, but gradually increased in frequency. Initially, these discussions centered purely on his marital struggles and general life challenges. Emily's sister had actually warned her about James' developing feelings, but Emily dismissed these concerns with what she now recognizes as naive optimism. She genuinely believed they were maintaining appropriate boundaries. Even during our infamous date night, she insists she was simply enjoying the evening, though she acknowledges alcohol clouded her judgment. That night marked her first realization that James' feelings might run deeper than friendship. The ski trip incident. 6 weeks before everything came to light, we joined 5 other families, including James and Kate, for a ski vacation in Vermont. The trip proved especially difficult for James and Kate, who argued constantly. One evening, while I was putting our children to bed, an intoxicated James asked Emily to meet him at the hotel bar, claiming he needed to talk. During this conversation, he confessed his love for Emily, expressing regret about not having married her instead of Kate. Emily's response was a simple, uncomfortable, "I'm sorry." I inadvertently interrupted them moments later, now understanding the strange tension I'd sensed that night. The escalation period. What followed the ski trip reveals how quickly situations can spiral. Emily admits she should have told me immediately about James' confession, but worried about disrupting the vacation for everyone. She convinced herself his declaration was merely drunk ramblings, hoping things would return to normal. Instead, his marriage continued deteriorating, while Emily fell into a depressive episode, coinciding unfortunately with my increased workload launching a new division at the bank. During this vulnerable period, their connection intensified. James began calling Emily daily, and they started meeting for lunch once or twice a week during my office hours. While most conversations remained focused on life's challenges, James started peppering in inappropriate comments about Emily's appearance. "You're the most beautiful woman I know," became a regular refrain. His drinking increased, leading to suggestive late-night texts, which Emily claims she tried to ignore or deflect. The kiss. The physical line was crossed one evening when all 3 of us were at our home. During a brief moment while I was in the bathroom, James kissed Emily. When I asked why she didn't tell me immediately or cut contact, she admitted to a complex mix of motivations: fear of disrupting our friend group, genuine concern for James' mental state, and most painfully honest, enjoyment of the attention during her depression. She actually laughed when I asked if they'd been intimate, pointing out James' significant weight issues compared to her fitness-focused lifestyle. While this might seem cruel, it added credibility to her denials of physical involvement. The recovery plan. We're moving forward with a structured approach to rebuilding. Emily has committed to both couples and individual therapy. She's also returned to work part-time at a local patisserie, giving her purpose beyond our home. While complete separation from James is impossible due to our intertwined social circles, all future communication must include me. I've made my own commitments to change. Despite my demanding schedule, I've promised to be more emotionally available. I've emphasized that Emily can call me anytime during her depressive episodes, even during important meetings. Her mental health takes priority over my work commitments, something I should have made clear before. The reality check. I know many would view me as naive for working through this, but they don't know Emily like I do. Her presence transforms rooms, not just through her striking appearance, but through her magnetic personality. Her intelligence continues to challenge and impress me daily. She's an extraordinary mother to our children, my closest confidant, and undeniably stunning. Imagine Isla Fisher's character from Wedding Crashers, but even more captivating in both personality and appearance. While I can understand James falling for her, his choice to act on those feelings was unforgivable. Perhaps I'm foolish, but Emily's worth fighting for, especially given her genuine remorse and commitment to rebuilding trust. August 15, 2024. The ongoing saga. The past months have been a roller coaster of emotions and events. Just when Emily and I began finding our footing, James' behavior became increasingly erratic. During a game night with friends, he called Emily from his car, sobbing and threatening self-harm. Despite our no-contact policy, concerns for his safety led to a 2-hour conversation that night, followed by a barrage of calls and texts the next day, forcing us to reinstate strict boundaries. The group event incident. At a recent social gathering, James' behavior reached new levels of concerning. He isolated himself in a corner, methodically drinking an entire bottle of whiskey from an oversized Yeti tumbler. His appearance had deteriorated noticeably. Unwashed clothes, unkempt beard, and bloodshot eyes. During the event, he approached me with an unsettling ultimatum. He was considering exposing the affair to everyone because he wanted to burn everything down. Through careful negotiation, Emily and I managed to talk him down, but the incident left everyone shaken. Later, we learned he had asked Emily to leave me, promising to wait even 15 years for her if necessary. This revelation, while disturbing, actually strengthened my confidence in Emily's commitment to our marriage. She had never mentioned this proposition, and when I brought it up, her reaction of disgust seemed entirely genuine. The sister situation. Perhaps the most bizarre turn of events involves James' apparent transfer of affection to Emily's sister. They began meeting for drinks several times weekly, with daily communication. Emily believes he's redirected his obsessive tendencies toward her sister, who, though separated, still lives with her soon-to-be ex-husband. This situation adds another layer of complexity to our already complicated social dynamic. Despite the ongoing drama with James, Emily and I have found ourselves in a stronger place than before. The affair's discovery forced us to address deep-seated issues in our communication and emotional connection. While I can't recapture the innocent trust I once had, our relationship has paradoxically improved through this ordeal. August 21st, 2024, the latest development. Concerned about James' interactions with Emily's sister, we initiated a family discussion about the situation. What we learned was deeply troubling. Over the course of 5 or 6 meetings, James' behavior grew increasingly erratic, culminating in a disturbing incident at his house while his wife and daughter were out of town. During this final meeting, James shared his belief that he had been married to both Emily and her sister in previous lives, expressing joy at their reunion. He then crossed a physical boundary by touching her sister's face intimately, an action that immediately ended their friendship. Emily's sister, displaying the directness we wish Emily had shown months ago, confronted him about his pattern of inappropriate behavior and his habit of misinterpreting friendship as romantic interest. The current state. James' subsequent behavior. Dozens of frantic texts to Emily's sister, emotional outbursts, and increasingly erratic social media posts suggests a person in serious crisis. The man I knew for years, who seemed stable and trustworthy, has become unrecognizable. This transformation makes me question whether I ever truly knew him, or if these tendencies were always present, carefully concealed beneath a composed exterior. The ethical dilemma. One aspect continues to weigh heavily on my conscience. Kate remains unaware of her husband's actions. Emily convinced me not to tell her, arguing it would destroy not just our friendship circle, but also impact our children, particularly my daughter's close friendship with James' daughter. The prospect of our children losing their best friends over adult failures feels particularly cruel. Had the affair progressed to physical intimacy, I would have felt morally obligated to tell Kate immediately. But given its emotional nature and our children's happiness at stake, I'm choosing what seems like the lesser evil. Still, this secret bears heavily on my conscience. The path forward. Emily's sister demonstrated the strength we all needed months ago. Her confrontation with James was clear and unequivocal, calling out his pattern of misinterpreting friendship and manipulating emotional vulnerability. She's maintained absolute no contact despite his continued desperate attempts to reach her. Emily herself has evolved significantly through this experience. Her previous diplomatic tendencies have been replaced with clearer boundaries. She frequently expresses frustration about James now, often stating she's completely done with his bullshit and wishes he would disappear from our lives. Unfortunately, given our intertwined social circles and our daughter's friendship, complete separation remains impossible. Professional help and healing. Our couples therapy sessions have been remarkably productive. We've learned to communicate more effectively about our needs and fears. Emily's individual therapy has helped her understand why she was vulnerable to emotional manipulation during her depression. I've also gained insights into how my work schedule, while providing financial security, created emotional gaps in our relationship. James' mental state. The dramatic shift in James' personality, from a once stable friend to someone making claims about past life marriages and showing obsessive behavior, suggests serious underlying issues. His rapid weight gain, increased alcohol consumption, and erratic emotional states point to a possible mental health crisis. While this doesn't excuse his actions, it adds another layer of complexity to the situation. Looking to the future, Emily and I have established new traditions and boundaries. Our date nights are now strictly private affairs, focused entirely on strengthening our connection. We've developed code words for when either of us feels overwhelmed or needs support, and we've committed to regular check-ins about our emotional well-being. The experience has taught us that even the strongest relationships require constant nurturing and vigilance. While I would never have chosen this path to relationship growth, the challenges have forced us to develop deeper understanding and stronger boundaries. Emily's commitment to our marriage and family has been proven not through words, but through consistent actions and genuine effort to rebuild trust. We're cautiously optimistic about our future while remaining vigilant about maintaining appropriate boundaries. Sometimes the hardest lessons lead to the most meaningful growth, though I wish we could have learned them another way. As we move forward, we're focused on protecting our children's happiness while nurturing our renewed connection. Final reflections. This experience has fundamentally changed how I view trust and relationships. While the innocent faith I once had may never fully return, it's been replaced by something perhaps more valuable: a deeper, more mature understanding of human complexity and the constant work required to maintain a healthy marriage. Emily remains the brilliant, magnetic person I married, now with added wisdom from our struggles. Our relationship, though tested, has emerged stronger. While the situation with James continues to evolve, we're committed to maintaining appropriate boundaries while managing the complex social dynamics for our children's sake. As we close this chapter of our story, We're focused on building a future that honors the lessons we've learned while celebrating the strength we've found in each other. The road ahead may not be perfectly smooth, but we're better equipped to handle its curves together.